Nurhaci was born on a cold winter's day in 1559. The silence of a small village in northeastern China was broken by the cry of a baby coming from a snow-covered cottage. The baby looked no different to any other child born into ordinary village families. The only unusual aspect of his birth was recorded in a book written over 100 years after his death. It said that Nurhaci's mother was pregnant with him for 13 months. The birth of his first son did not bring much joy to Nurhaci's father, Taxi. The Jurchen tribes were entrenched in the chaos of power struggles and revenge. As the chieftain of a small Jurchen tribe, Taxi was worried about his tribe's survival. A month after his baby was born, Taxi named him Nurhaci, meaning hairy skin. The Jurchen tradition was to give boys names related to wild beasts. The Ming Empire had been established for 191 years. Emperor Jurchen had ruled the giant empire for 38 years. He had become obsessed with women, alcohol, and superstition, and had been abusing his power. To try to achieve immortality, he had started taking pills from charlatan Taoist priests. Pills made him seriously ill. He became increasingly weak and irritable. The empire sank into decline. His officials were corrupt, the masses destitute, and defenses weak. It seemed that the empire was fading like the setting sun. The Jurchen had a long history in northeastern China. They were originally called Sushans, and since the Qing Dynasty from 960 AD to 1279 AD, they were now known as the Jurchens. They covered the vast area from the southern Heilongjiang province to the Liao River basin. The Ming Empire divided them into three groups: the Jianzhou Jurchens, the Haisi Jurchens, and the Waoba Jurchens. Each group was comprised of dozens of tribes. They had been living in a slave-based society by fishing and hunting. In their harsh environment, they were secluded from the world. The people of the Central Plains, such as the ethnic Han Chinese, regarded them as barbarians. Nurhaci was born into a noble family of the Jianzhou Jurchens, and with only a few servants and not much property. Like other families, their house was built of mud and straw, but was much larger than others. Heatable bricks were positioned inside three walls of the house and were joined together. Pipes for the stove ran outside the house. During the winter, most of the Jurchen's domestic activities took place on the brick bed, which took up over half of the inside space. The Jurchens were a martial people. They were masters of archery and horsemanship. Like other Jurchen children, Nurhaci learned archery from his father and grandfather. This laid the foundation for his superb archery skills. The records state that Nurhaci once competed with a well-known local marksman. Both shot 5 arrows at a target 100 steps away. The marksman missed twice, while Nurhaci did not miss a single shot, and 5 of his arrows hit the same spot. When he was 10, Nurhaci experienced life's bitterness. His mother died, and his stepmother was cruel to him. The records state that Empress Swan, or the mother of Nurhaci, passed away, and her successor, Nara, raised Nurhaci with little love. Disliked by his stepmother, Nurhaci had to help boost the family finances at an early age. Twice a month, he would go to collect mountain products in the forest and then sell them at a local market. This trading area had been established specifically for the Jurchens by the Ming government. For young Nurhaci, the market gave him a basic understanding of the intricacies of Chinese society. The knowledge, insight, and maturity he showed or well beyond that of his peers. The Ming Empire flourished under the Emperor Yongle, who had seized the throne from his nephew. As a former Beijing duke, he was familiar with the geography and customs of northeastern China. Since the start of his reign, he had established guard posts to manage the scattered Jurchen tribes. He had also assigned local people to manage these guard posts. The Ming government appointed capable local chieftains as officers and granted them privileges. This meant that they could govern their tribes as official government officers. These chieftains became loyal servants of the Ming Emperor. Anyone who dared to trespass the territory of the empire, disturb the peace, or disobey the officers were severely punished by the imperial court. In 1404, Nurhaci's ancestor, Ming Timur, was assigned as military commander of the guards at Jianzhou. After that, the family's status declined. Nurhaci's grandfather, Jianzhou, and father, Tatsu, did not hold any official posts. They were merely chieftains of a small tribe among dozens in the larger group. Yet Jianzhou was not a man to resign himself to his fate. He tried constantly to restore the family's former glory. During the intertribal warfare, he stood alongside Wang Koo, the most powerful chieftain in the group. He arranged a marriage between his eldest granddaughter and Wang's son, Akai. His son Tatsu married Akai's daughter, so in fact, Wang was Nurhaci's great-grandfather. Yet, this connection through marriage was not as solid as it looked. Any change of situation, conflict of interests, or threat of death could easily break it. Wang was a legend. He was crafty and capable, aggressive and cruel, courageous and prudent. He could speak fluent Chinese, Mongol, and the Jurchen language. He soon conquered nearby tribes and established a defendable city at Ula Mountain in Liaoning province. He was granted an official post by the imperial court. Wang was appointed military commander of the left guard of Jianzhou in the 1570s. He was promoted to captain. It was known as Captain Angu. He was very rich. He had as many as 500 government authorization papers and a large army. After a series of 9 meetings, he and his chieftains formed an alliance. The 3 guards of Jianzhou were all under his command. Having been starved of love by his own family, Nurhaci often stayed at his great-grandfather's house with his younger brother, Nurhaci. Wang's shrewdness, valor, and talent for scheming and military strategy greatly impressed Nurhaci. He hoped that one day he would be a man who could hold his people in awe, just like his great-grandfather. The Ming government tolerated Wang's bold behavior, hoping he could look after its interests. Yet, Wang's powerful army made him self-assured, and he often ordered his men to loot property over the border. On a few occasions, they even confronted the Ming army itself and killed several generals. It seemed that Wang had no idea of the consequences of irritating the Ming court. In 1570, Li Chengliang, a brave and skillful general, was appointed regional commander. He had fought his way through fierce battles on the northern border and vanquished 100,000 Mongolian cavalry. In southern China, he and General Qi Jiguang were often mentioned in the same breath for their valor. As the new regional commander, Li decided to govern the Jurchen tribes with an iron fist. His first target was the unruly troublemaker, Wang. In 1574, Li personally led an army of 60,000 on a primitive expedition against Wang. Threatened by such massive force, the seemingly indestructible marriage alliance instantly collapsed. Without any hesitation, Jianzhou pledged his loyalty to Li, providing him information about Wang and showed his army the way. For Wang, it was a battle he was bound to lose. Although his army fought hard, Fort Gula was overrun by the Ming army. More than 1,000 people were brutally killed in Gula, but the cunning Wang escaped. The following year, he attempted to stage a comeback but was betrayed by his men, captured by the Ming army. They took him to Beijing and executed him outside the Meridian Gate at the Forbidden City. When the Ming army conquered Fort Gula, Nurhaci happened to be staying with Wang. In the chaos of war, 15-year-old Nurhaci became Li's prisoner. Li enlisted this unbending teenager into his army. Nurhaci gained many military skills while serving in Li's army. He developed a close relationship with Li, which laid a foundation for his future rise. Historical records show that Nurhaci respected Li very much, as a son respects his father. He always fought at the front lines and had many military adventures. Nurhaci stayed in Li's army for 3 years. There are many stories about why he left. The strangest one is that he and Li's concubine had feelings for each other. And one day, Nurhaci revealed to her that he had 7 moles on the sole of his foot. This was a sign of the future emperor. After this, he became the most wanted man in the empire and had to flee by night. At this time, Nurhaci was now 18 years old. He had grown resolute, courageous, and thoughtful. When he passed an area named Yahe, a nobleman who had heard about Nurhaci offered him horses and suits of honor, and even pledged his daughter, Mengbo, to him. He said, "I have 2 daughters. You can marry my youngest daughter when she grows up." The proposal fitted in exactly with Nurhaci's wishes. He was in need of alliances. But he did not want to wait too long. So he said, "Why don't I just marry your older daughter?" The nobleman said, "No, my youngest daughter is so adorable, I have to find the best fit for her. You must wait for her. It is not that I hate to part with my older daughter, but in my eyes only, my youngest is good enough for such an excellent man as you." So Nurhaci went back to his hometown with this long engagement in place. Before long, on the orders of his parents, he married his first wife, Chengliang. Shortly after their marriage, his father Taxi and stepmother Nara asked the couple to live apart from them. According to the records, Nurhaci only received a small sum of money. The exact amount is unknown, but it was a very small amount. He and his younger brother had to live in another place. On the back hill at the riverbank, there was a village called Karami. It was 5 kilometers northeast of Hatu Ala. Nurhaci started his independent life here. To earn a living, he had to go back to his old job of collecting mountain products like ginseng and trading them at the local market. By now, Nurhaci had already developed the features of an emperor, with phoenix eyes, big ears, great stature, powerful voice, elegance, and impeccable manners. This may be the exaggerated praise of posterity, yet through experience, Nurhaci had indeed become strong-minded, shrewd, and sophisticated. Taxi was impressed by his son and offered him more property. But Nurhaci declined. As the stream flowed at the foot of the mountain, life went on peacefully in the village. Yet, Nurhaci's heart was hardly ever at peace. The Jianzhou tribes continued to fight each other for livestock, grain, land, and manpower. The area was stalked by endless scheming, revenge, murder, and plunder. Thinking constantly of his family's glory, the tragic deaths of his great-grandfather, and the internal tribal warfare, Nurhaci did not sleep well and often lingered around the mountain village. 7 years after Wang's death, his son Atai and his troops still guarded Fort Gula against the Ming Empire. In 1583, Li's army attacked the fort again, guided by Jurchen chieftain Nikan Wailan. Jianzhou and Taxi accompanied Li's army. Attai's troops resisted desperately. The Ming army tried for several days to take the fort. Since Jianzhou and Taxi had an affinity with Attai, they were sent to the fort to convince Attai to surrender. Yet, Attai refused and detained them. When the Ming soldiers finally took the fort, they carried out a retaliatory massacre. Jianzhou and Taxi were killed in the chaos. When news of the deaths of Jianzhou reached him, Nurhaci's heart sank. What enraged him was the fact that they had been killed by the army they had been serving. He angrily requested an explanation from the Ming court. Knowing it was in the wrong, the Ming court explained that it was an accident. To make up for his loss, it granted Nurhaci 30 government authorization papers, 30 horses, and the title as captain of Jianzhou. With the death of Jianzhou and Taxi, only Nurhaci was left to restore the family blood. As a captain, he became the official leader of the Jianzhou Jurchens, even though he did not have much real power. He hesitated when making his next move. Seeking revenge against the Ming Empire seemed futile, yet accepting humiliation would mean he would be despised. Finally, he found a way out of the dilemma. He would swallow up Nikan Wailan's tribe with the help of the Ming army. So Nurhaci made another request to the local officers. He said it had been Nikan Wailan who had incited the murder of his grandfather and father. Get him to me, he said, and we can call it quits. Yet, Nurhaci underestimated the Ming officers' arrogance and contempt for the Jurchens. How could they tolerate repeated requests from a non-entity like Nurhaci? They not only refused Nurhaci's request, but also claimed that they would make Nikan Wailan the leader of Jianzhou. Nurhaci had put himself in a dangerous position. Nikan Wailan was not a very capable man and had a bad reputation among the Jurchens, but he had devoted himself to serving the Ming Empire and had gained its favor. The Ming court's backing greatly increased his prestige. Many small tribes willingly submitted to him. For fear that Nurhaci's move would bring disaster to the family, his uncles and brothers also submitted to Nikan Wailan and even swore to kill Nurhaci. Having irritated the Ming officers and been betrayed by his tribesmen and his own family, Nurhaci was in an extremely dangerous position. Should he bend to Nikan Wailan or fight for his dignity? Still grieving over the deaths of his father and grandfather, Nurhaci suddenly found himself facing the most difficult choice of his life. In 1583, threatened and outnumbered by a stronger enemy, Nurhaci led more than 30 of his tribesmen in a rebellion against Nikan Wailan. All they had to protect them were 13 suits of armor left by Nurhaci's ancestors. At that time, Jianzhou Jurchen tribes were fighting fiercely against each other in family feuds over conflicts of interest. The three major tribes were the Suhu River tribe, the Han River tribe, and the Jurchen tribe. Each tribe was further divided into minor tribes. They attacked and killed each other as they struggled for more power. Now the rebel Nurhaci took part in these struggles and battles in which only the most ruthless, crude, and strong-minded could survive. Although Nurhaci had not had a happy childhood, he was nevertheless bestowed with extraordinary intelligence. Taking advantage of the intertribal conflict, he drew those opposing Nikan Wailan to his side and built a small army of fewer than 100 men. In May 1583, after praying to heaven for victory, Nurhaci and his army attacked Nikan Wailan at Pulu. This was the first battle on Nurhaci's path to unifying the Jianzhou Jurchens. On hearing news of the attack, Outwardly, Nikan Wailan ran off with his wife. Nurhaci captured Tulun and set about a period of virtuous rule. He compensated those who had surrendered and threatened those who resisted with force. This was the start of the Jianzhou Unification War. Nurhaci's rebelliousness and compassion shocked the Jianzhou Jurchen tribe. They had always been against displays of sympathy and support. Nurhaci became a target of many Jurchens, including his own tribesmen. They devised many vicious plots and committed many murders in Paraming village. Yet Nurhaci escaped all of them through wisdom, vigilance, and blessings from heaven. In 1584, something happened that would have a profound influence on the empire's fate. 2 years after the funeral of Zhang Zhujiang, a former Ming Dynasty Grand Secretary, Emperor Wan Li ordered the exhumation of Zhang's coffin and the destruction of his body. The policies of state governance and the management of farms established by Zhang were abandoned. After this, the Ming Empire lurched from bad to worse. As the Ming Empire declined, Nurhaci was expanding his power, expeditions, and wars. 2 years into his rebellion, Nurhaci and his soldiers took Judea city by digging holes in the ice-covered city walls, using them as steps. 6 months later, Nurhaci attacked 3 villages of Mardud. He fought on the front lines in a hail of arrows and stones, but the fierce attack failed. Nurhaci then led his soldiers in climbing up the cliff face under cover of night and finally captured Mardud. His quick-wittedness, resourcefulness, and decisiveness were displayed throughout the 2 battles. Nurhaci had grown even shrewder through the pursuit of war. Nurhaci didn't have a large army when he rebelled, but he was courageous and clever. He had always led his men in the charge. This won him the respect and support of his soldiers. Once, when Nurhaci was taking the lead in attacking the city, he was badly wounded by an arrow. After they had captured the city, the 2 archers who had shot Nurhaci were taken to him. The general suggested punishing them by shooting them. However, Nurhaci did not approve. He said, "They shot me for their leader. If I became their leader, wouldn't they do the same for me? I would feel sorry if such brave men died on the battlefield. How can I kill them for shooting me?" Instead of killing them, Nurhaci made them group leaders in his army. His men were all touched by his broad-mindedness. Hearing this story, many strong, brave Jurchen warriors joined his army. 3 years into the rebellion, Nurhaci had already accumulated much power. He led his men to the city where Nikan Wailan lived to avenge his grandfather and father's deaths. The city was captured, but the guilty man had escaped. He ran to the border offices, seeking help from the Ming officers. Nikan Wailan's cowardliness greatly disappointed the Ming court. So when Nurhaci asked the Ming officials to hand him over, they decided to help. They sent a message to tell Nurhaci saying, "The man you want is at the border, but we can't capture him for you. You send your men to take him." Nurhaci sent troops to the border and killed Nikan Wailan on the spot. Nikan Wailan had lost power and was of no further use to the Ming court. Even if they continued to protect him, he would not regain power, because Nurhaci had already become too powerful. So the Ming officers decided to grant Nurhaci's request and gave him Nikan Wailan as a gift. In some ways, it shows that they had accepted Nurhaci's authority. And with that, we end the first part of the Qing Dynasty. Join us next time as we continue on with his story and how his unification of Manchuria led to the founding of the Qing Dynasty. Please like and subscribe to our channel, Tiger Bite Size History. Thank you.